The past 2 years has seen an unprecedented increase in the cost of goods and services in Cameroon, triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and exacerbated, of course, with the increase in the cost of fuel in Cameroon. Cameroonians have been having a tough time getting goods and services. Knowledge about finance is critical in a bid to navigate the challenges that come with the current socio-economic context. How can you navigate and succeed in a very financially challenging moment? These questions and more will be answered by my special guest in this edition of the program. Don't go away. My guest is a licensed financial professional helping individuals to build and scale wealth. A teacher by heart, he is passionate by the releasing of financial education resources and strategies that can shape mindsets, challenge existing paradigms, and foster an environment of effective financial independence, wealth creation, legacy building, and more. He spent over 17 years of his career as a seasoned electrical engineer that spanned two major industries, the automotive and aerospace industries. The completion of a master's degree in management significantly fueled his desire and passion to learn beyond the classroom walls. This culminated in him leaving his engineering career of more than 17 years and venturing into the financial service industry, where he has been. His passion for financial literacy and information sharing is evident every time he opens his mouth to talk about the topic. He is on a mission to build a vibrant team of highly successful leaders in the financial industry who are currently impacting the lives of thousands of people in the community. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from St. Cloud State University, Minnesota in the United States, a master's degree in management with an emphasis on technology management from Walden University, and also holds a professional certification as a product management professional. Join me to welcome financial industry expert Kingsley EKINDE. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for talking to Dash TV.
Thank you so much for having me today, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Your CV, we must say, is a mind-blowing one. You spent 17 years as an electrical engineer in the automotive as well as aerospace industries. Tell us, how or what memories do you have of your time as an engineer?
Oh, man. They have been great memories because through that journey, I've built some very great relationships with people I still talk to today, right, who are still in that space. The first thing it really helped me to recognize was the fact that my knack for using my hands to play around with things, it really lent itself to that field, right? And so being in the electrical engineering space really gave me the opportunity to see how you could design something, manufacture it, and see how it's being used. And so that was, for me, was the most pleasure I could get from being in that space.
Let's look at concretely what were some of the key achievements during that time. You know, working with automotive and aerospace, very two challenging fields. Very two
challenging fields. For the automotive space, which is where I probably spent most of my time, over close to 9 years, right? I was heavily involved with designing and manufacturing manufacture of small wheel electric vehicles. So if you've ever been to a golf course and you see those little vehicles people drive around, that was the company I used to work for.
Okay.
And as an electrical engineer, I was responsible for basically the vehicle electrification. You know, so From an achievement standpoint, I really don't, for me personally, it's not about the things I did and the results I obtained for the company, which that does exist, right? Led a few projects. But where I felt like my achievement I can look at, and for me was rewarding, were the people I mentored along the journey. Young engineers coming out of college, coming in as interns, and then me, them being my responsibility to mold them and to help shape them to start understanding what it means to become an engineer and how to start really developing that discipline and the mindset to do engineering work. For me, that was my greatest achievement, that I have a few of those that I was able to help and impact, that today they are engineers in their own right and they're doing some great things. And
the feedback from them, I must say, is very positive. What does that mean to you?
Interestingly enough, some of them have said some things that perhaps you may have come across, maybe my LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. But for me, it's really rewarding to know that they felt that I was impactful or I helped them along the way. So that's, for me, that's the biggest part.
All right. Yeah. Leaving a sector like engineering for finance doesn't happen every day. What was the motivating factor?
I'll answer the question in two parts.
Yeah.
Initially, it was creating another source of income. I think gone are those days when, just having certain things that made you feel comfortable. Maybe it could be owning a house, having a nice car, right, was the dream people used to aspire to achieve. But today, I think it's more so about financial security. And when you think about financial security, one of the themes, the underlying themes that most people know is that if you only have one paycheck, then that means you're one paycheck away from being broke or from really encountering a financial disaster. So for me, it was an opportunity to start another source of income. And that really got me excited. But it eventually transformed into something much more deeper. Because when I started understanding how much I didn't know, now I recognize that this had to become a lifelong journey for me as well. And so that really morphed into me really immersing myself, reading a lot of books and looking for mentors who could guide me along the way. And that's why I'm here today, because I'm so passionate about that now, because I see the importance of you understanding how money works. A lot of us have gone to school, but there's some things that when it comes to the money part, we have no clue.
Yeah. Now, tell us, how will you describe the transition phase?
One word: personal development. Personal development. Because at some point, you'd have to recognize that you are responsible for the outcomes that you desire. And if you're not ready to take that personal responsibility, it's not going to happen. People can push you, people can encourage you, just like we say, right? You can take a horse to the trough, but you can't force it to drink water. Same thing, personal development. At some point, you have to recognize that it is your responsibility to get yourself up and make the necessary changes that you want to see in your life, in any domain. So that was it for me. All
right. How fulfilled are you now in the financial industry?
About 4 years now, right? But I think the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. That's the truth. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. And so it's a never-ending journey. It's more discovery. But also, I feel fulfilled now because I have a much better sense of what it takes for me to succeed and what I need to do to realize the success that I say I want. Prior to that, it would have been virtually impossible, right? And a lot of us, maybe we'll touch on that later on, but there's some things that you just, sometimes we have maybe wishful thinking, right? But then it almost seems like it's a never-ending journey. You can never see that end point. But because of this journey now, I feel fulfilled. Why? Because I know there's an outcome that I can achieve, and I have a much better sense of how that can happen.
All right, let's look around. As a financial expert, you must have observed the way people do about their finance, the way they think and the way they act about their finance. What are the common mistakes that people make, particularly here in Cameroon, about finances?
So I wouldn't even say just Cameroon. I think this is across the board.
Yeah.
Okay. And it starts by just having the wrong mindset. Because really what I'm discovering is that wealth and the creation of wealth, it starts with having the right mindset about wealth. It starts with having the right mindset about money. And the challenge for most of us, let's put it in context, Cameron, is that most of us don't have that mindset or didn't grow in an environment where that mindset could be developed, nourished, or cultivated.
Yeah.
Okay? I didn't grow up seeing or witnessing a wealthy person. I knew some people in town or in the community where I grew up who were rich. But how rich were they? Probably not so much. So think about this now. You're growing in an environment where you don't see wealth model before you, and the closest people you can see who maybe might be a little bit affluent, how they use money and how they spend money, that's what you observed. And so you grow up, that's exactly what you'll likely do also, right?
Yeah.
Until you're put in an environment where you can see something different. That's the paradigm you're going to live in. And so the first error is that right there. It's not the budgeting or the balancing, no. It's that mindset. If that doesn't change, everything else really won't work right.
How do we create then a good ecosystem where people can freshen their mindset about money and act positively?
It begins with education. And that's why I'm, again, passionate about this, because financial education is one of the things that I would say it was left out. You see, the mindset that most of us developed and grew up in is this: go to school, get good grades, and life will be good for you. In fact, you probably agree with me that you felt like if you went to school, get those good grades, and have that degree, you'll make a lot of money, you'll be wealthy, or you'll be great, right? How's that turn out?
Very challenging, of course.
Very challenging, of course, right? So we were sold a lie. And that's when I had my moment of epiphany that was a lie, that triggered the question, how else? What is wrong? Because I went to school. In fact, there are 5 areas that I'll touch on briefly that most people or society knows that you can do.
Yeah. You
can go into engineering, you can go into sciences, or you can go into the medical field, or you can go into politics or some other discipline, okay? And you can also go into business or money. I'll put that money. Of these 5, the one we were not really taught on or told about was money.
Was money.
In fact, you and I were told that if you're smart, you go into engineering, medicine, or sciences, right?
Science, yeah.
So if all the smart people are going to medicine, engineering, and sciences, who are those who are left in the society who are going into politics or money? So we were made to believe that was it. But think about it. You and I went to school, achieved that higher education for what? To work for money. But we don't know how money works.
How money works, yeah.
So how well are we doing with our money? Because we're struggling because we don't know how money works. And until we have that education on how money works, it makes it so difficult for us to succeed, even though we are extremely educated or smart in some discipline. And that was what made me make that shift, because I recognized that, hey, no matter how smart I was solving some complex problems, engineering problems, helping people in different ways, but I was still broke.
And that leads us to the question, how does money work?
Good question. There are some simple concepts that I can highlight now to talk about money. The first one, which is very powerful, is compounding. Compound interest, they may say. But in life, almost everything compounds. But let's touch on compound interest. And compound interest is something that when it was discovered, I know there's some myth about it, if it was Einstein who said it or whatnot, but he said, someone themed it that it was one of the 8 wonders of the world. But here's why. And the simplest way to do it, I'll give you two examples to quickly see how powerful it is. Because the mathematical formula is very difficult. So the simplest way to do it is I could take 72 and I divide it by the interest rate. It would tell me how long in years it would take for my money to double. Okay? So if I have my money sitting in an account that is accruing at just 1% interest rate, it doesn't matter how much I have in that account. 72 divided by 1 is 72.
72.
That means it would take me 72 years for whatever money I have in that account to double. If I have 10,000, it would take 72 years for me to get 20,000. Okay? That is the effect of compounding. So what that means is the higher that rate of return, the shorter time it takes for your money to compound or for your money to double, right? So understanding compound interest, which is something we were taught in arithmetic and math, but we haven't been explained it in a way that we could see how it applies to us in our day-to-day living, right? But that's one. The second piece is that there are multiple ways that money can grow. It can be fixed, it can be variable, or it can be indexed. Now, in the context of Cameroon, those three may exist in different forms. But what do I mean by fixed? Fixed may be like a savings account. You open a savings account at a bank, and they offer you maybe 3%. That means every year you just get 3%. That's one way your money can grow. Second could be variable, like people playing in the stock market, right? You're buying crypto, you name it. But that's another option, how you can grow your money. But there's risk involved, right? You can make the money and you can lose the money. But that's an option. But there's a third option that's also called indexing, where it's about strategizing how that money grows. And sometimes some companies do a good job doing that. One of the companies that really are the pioneers of this strategy are insurance companies, especially life insurance companies. But what they do is, they especially in the United States, I'm still trying to explore some of the options that may exist in Cameroon. But it's an incredible option that allows you, it protects you from losing money, but it allows you to still make some gains with respect to what the market is dictating, right? So those are three fundamental ways that your money can grow.
Now, in the Cameroonian context, how is that feasible in Cameroon? In
Cameroon, so far, you have the first two that I mentioned, variable and you have fixed. You have those. The option that it can happen, but you'd have to maybe put in a little bit of effort to make that happen is the index option. Let's say, for example, maybe you do real estate. Think about you maybe having a business where maybe you bought something, you made an investment somewhere, and by the time you resell that investment, you make a little bump, and then you reinvest again, right? And then by the time you resell again, you make a little bump. So in a sense, you are actively indexing your portfolio, right? So you can do that, but it could be a little more engaged here versus in other parts of the world.
All right, now, what is the relationship between time, money, and knowledge?
Great question. You know, those are three fundamental currencies that have been afforded to every human being, okay? Time, money, and knowledge. And sometimes we may think they're interdependent, but I really don't think they're really interdependent. But, I wrote an article about this some time ago, and the bottom line is this, is that those three currencies, whichever one you lack, you'd have to use the other two to help you achieve it or get it, okay? If time is the issue, then you can use money to buy back your time by maybe paying some people to do some activities or work that you may not want to do to free up your time, right? You can use knowledge to help you learn how to do some of the activities you do more efficiently, so you're not wasting too much time doing that, right? If money is the issue, then guess what? You have time. You may need to use your time to invest in developing a skill or learning a new skill or developing some more experience in your existing domain, right? And then guess what? Now with the time you're spending, you're developing more knowledge. You use those two, and you can now start making more money, right? Because what is money? Money is simply the reward for solving problems. So the more difficult the problems you can solve, the more money you can easily make, right? Because money is an exchange of value.
All right, still talking about money, there's the issue of saving. Here in Cameroon, the general idea, people are taught to save. But for a country where you have the minimum wage, roughly around 46,000 francs CFA, how do you save on a tight budget when you have the demands for goods and services that are high?
Yeah, you know, saving is a great virtue. I think no matter how small you can start to save, it will still do you some good, right? And sometimes it is a myth. We think that, because I'm making this small, I can't save. But the thing is this, the thing with saving, and for me, how I look at it is the discipline is going to help you develop over time. Even if you're saving just 1,000 francs every month, if you do that consistently enough, you get to the place where you'll be able to start saving 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, right? But when you despise that little beginning, if you cannot save 1,000 when you're making 46,000, or you cannot save 100 francs when you're making that 46,000, I guarantee you, when you're making 100,000, you'll still not be able to save that, right?
So discipline is key.
The discipline is key, and that's why you don't despise a small beginning. Still focus on it, knowing that in as much as it's not enough or it looks small, it is the discipline is building in you that would help you in the long run.
For the case of Cameroon, what are the financial principles they should understand?
Here's the thing. Financial principles, bottom line, they're the same everywhere. If you don't understand how money works, it doesn't matter whether you're in Cameroon, in the United States, wherever, you'll still struggle. Because money has some fundamental rules. The first one, one of the rules we touched on was compounding.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but it's very profound. If you don't understand it, whether it's in Cameroon or in the United States, you will suffer, because here's how compounding can work against you. Let's say you go to the bank and you go take a loan, and the bank is charging you 20% on that loan, okay? 20%. Let's use the rule of 72 as well. 72 divided by 20, what's that? That's 3.6.
3.6.
That means every 3.5 years, if you don't pay that loan off, that loan balance is doubling. Let's look at inflation. Let's say inflation is 3%. We divide 72 by 3, that's about 26. 26, yeah. Right? That means every 26 years, the cost of everything you see around you is likely to double. That is still compounding. Yeah. So it can work for you or against you. That's one fundamental principle about how money works that we need to understand. Because when you understand that, I believe it can motivate you to start investing. The second part was understanding how different markets or how different schemes can help your money grow. You can either leave it somewhere where it's just giving you a fixed rate, or if you want to take more risk and put it somewhere where it can go up and down, you just have to understand the risk you're willing to take, right? Or you can start looking at other measures, investing. Maybe it could be some private entities or equity firms that you can invest in before it goes public. Can you invest there, and then by the time they go public, hey, your money goes through the roof, and now you have a good chunk that you can do other things? There are things like that that we can explore, even here. It's just that sometimes it comes down to one piece of the information, one piece of information I would say is knowledge. And so the lack thereof is what creates all these other issues.
And when you talk about knowledge, that brings to mind financial literacy. What is financial literacy, and how can it boost the search for money or having financial principles? Yeah,
financial literacy is huge, right? Because it starts with you personally. But it's about understanding the fundamentals of how money works. Really, that's what financial literacy is. Are you educated enough about some things about money, how money works in a way that you can play with money? Because it's a game. And if you and I are playing a game and I know the rules and you don't, who has a chance of winning?
The person who knows the rules.
The person who knows the rules, right? So money has rules. The more you understand the rules, the better you can play the game. Right? And that's what financial literacy is all about. It's understanding those money rules. Whether you want to play in the space of real estate, understand the rules and how money plays in that space. If you want to do into maybe financial accounts, you want to go into cryptocurrency, understand the rules. Just like Warren Buffett once said, he would never invest in what he doesn't take the time to learn or know. So for most of us, we want to throw money here and there, and we have no clue what we're doing, right? Take the time to understand what you're doing. Get educated in that area. Then you can invest your time. Then you can invest your money.
Now, you spoke earlier about cryptocurrency, and here in Cameroon and Africa, it's blowing like wildfire at the moment. And there's this conflict, this resistance by certain governments, including Cameroon, to totally embrace cryptocurrency. Is crypto the future?
Not so sure yet, but I believe it has its place, right? Maybe at some point it will become the currency of the day. But again, whoever wants to invest in it, you just need to make sure that you're willing to take some time to understand what that is all about, right? So there's no right or wrong answer. Because here's the thing, every individual has a different psychology about money.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it comes with your worldview and how you were brought up. So one person might jump into it and make a lot of money. It doesn't mean the other person may jump into it and have the same results, right? But you have to be willing to take the time to at least learn something about that piece of data or that piece of investment you say you want to put your money into. So that way you don't run the risk of losing money, and then, you know, who are you going to blame?
All right, you spoke last time about mindset, and that brings to question the business environment in Cameroon. We have realized that most of the businesses crumbled after the founding presidents or the founding CEOs passed on in Cameroon.
Yeah.
Most of the businesses crumbled maybe after 5 years.
Yeah.
What accounts for that?
I have one word for that. That's my opinion. Other people can say. I can tell you this, there could be a plethora of reasons why that happens. But for me, I really think the reason why that happens is vision. The lack of vision, for me, is a root cause of that problem. Because here's what vision does. Vision is something that goes way beyond you who starts. In fact, if your vision is not bigger than you, then you're not dreaming big enough, right? So when you have a strong vision, it should outlive you. If it couldn't outlive you, then your vision was too small. And that's what's happening for most of us, right? Your reason for going into business will determine the scope of that business and how far that business will go. If your reason for going into business was just to make a little extra money, that's exactly what that business would do for you, just a little extra money. If your reason was to impact the world, you will impact the world. So vision, to me, is the root at that problem.
And how can you have a business that has a vision that can survive you?
You have to have a strong why. Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? The stronger your why, the stronger the vision.
Yeah.
But when your why isn't strong, that's why some businesses will fail, because we'll give up, because your why isn't strong enough. But when your why is strong, you keep going, regardless of the circumstances and the challenges that may come your way. All businesses that have stood the test of time is because they had a strong why. Otherwise, we would not know them today.
Now, let's talk about taxes, because it's one of the most dicey aspects about the most dicey aspects about finance. I used to listen to Robert Kiyosaki. He says that he doesn't pay tax. He says that rich men don't pay taxes. How true is that assertion?
Oh, yeah, it is true. It is true.
That the rich don't pay taxes?
Yeah. Or if they pay very little.
Very little.
Yeah.
And why is that so?
Well, let's put it in context. You know, it probably happens here too, but in the United States, I'll help you. I'll give you a hint. One of the reasons why there are taxation and why the wealthy or the rich may not pay taxes in some cases is because they help the government solve problems the government cannot solve for itself. How else is the government going to reward them for doing that?
By reducing the taxes,
right?
Or scraping it off.
So that right there is one of the things that we have to understand. Anytime, because the truth is the government was never set up to solve all of humanity's problems or all of its citizens' problems, right? So whenever someone in the community or in society can help solve a problem that the government knows it has, but it has a challenge of solving, the government would like to reward you, because now you've taken that burden off their plate. The least they could do is say, man, we need to let this guy keep doing this, right? So you get the tax breaks. But the second piece of it is how you receive your money as income. Because if your money is coming as income as an exchange of your time, that is the most taxed income. If your money is coming in as maybe dividends or capital gains, which means maybe sale or resale of properties and stuff like that, the taxes there are extremely low. And now if you have a business, once you become a business owner, there are certain things that happens as a result of you becoming a business owner. you have the opportunity to start writing off certain expenses, which as an individual and an employee, you can't, right? As a business owner, you could write off expenses for your car because maybe that car is part of your business. You're using it for your business. As an employee, you have a car. Can you write that off? Probably not.
No.
Right? So once you become a business owner also, it really opens a wide door for you now. And that's why you can end up paying less and less taxes, because a lot of the things you use as expenses can be written off. The same thing that you, the average person, and you're just an employee, you can't write that off. That's just the truth. And it's no fault of theirs. It's a law, and there's nothing they're breaking. Even in Cameroon, there are things that if you became a business owner, depending on what sector you function in, you probably get some tax breaks from the government,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, to what extent is knowledge about taxes important for financial security? Because most people here in Cameroon, the ordinary Cameroonian, sometimes you want to talk about tax, they say, no, don't want to hear it, but they are the ones that are paying the taxes. So how important is knowledge about taxes?
Just as important as, again, that's another part of knowing money rules, right?
Yeah.
Just as important. Just as important. And sometimes you may not be able to dig in deep into the tax laws, but get you connected with some lawyer who is a tax lawyer who is willing to do all that reading for you, right? That's why when businesses start growing, you have to have a team. At some point, there are 3 people that you have to have in your team if you're trying to go into business, or at any point, even if you're just someone who is not into business. There are some things, there's some people that you need in your life.
Yeah.
An accountant, a lawyer, and a financial guy, financial professional. They have very distinct roles. The financial guy can come up with strategies on what you can do, how you can invest your money and all of that. Great. The lawyer is the one who is going to tell you, well, this is how we may need to structure this business, or this is how we may need to structure this investment so we can mitigate some impact, maybe from a tax standpoint or from a legal standpoint. The accountant is there to help you to say, okay, yeah, if we structure it this way, this will give you this much tax benefit. That if we change this business structure to this one, these are the tax benefits you can realize. Those 3 people are key when it comes to learning how to maneuver the financial space. But it boils down to knowledge, right? Yeah. Tax is just another piece of information that you need to know. Know what you can. And here's one thing I remember. My mentor always tells me this. Know what you know what you don't know, and know who knows what you don't know.
Know what you don't know. Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how is the current economic situation affecting financial decisions of people?
Ooh, that's a big one, because every time inflation swings, people feel the pinch, right? The cost of things go up. And whenever that happens, we start seeing other things. Either people start conserving, or people stop buying, making purchases. So everything begins to feel tight. So the economic situation is one of those that, it's going to go up and down, for sure. But what we need to do as a people is that the more we become educated, and the reason I keep going back to that is because really the foundation for everything is the knowledge, Yeah. Without it, everything we do could be like a hit and miss, try by error, right? So the more we begin to understand some of these money principles, the more we can live a stable life in the midst of chaos. Okay? And that, for me, that is so profound, but that's really what really needs to happen. The more you begin to understand some things about money, you say, okay, hey, this is compounding. You could anticipate such that, hey, there could be an investment opportunity that you could take advantage of. But your lack of not even understanding some of these things could make you miss those opportunities. And all of a sudden, you're finding yourself in an economic crisis. Not because everything is happening crazy, but just because you didn't know and you missed that opportunity that could have changed your life or changed the trajectory of your life.
All right. Now, what advice would you give to Cameroonians who are navigating the current economic challenges?
My advice could be a few things. I think one of the things, again, as a society, that we tend to not do. I'm saying this because that was That was my mindset. I never felt the need to sit down with a financial professional or a financial advisor to talk about money matters. Because I felt like, why am I having a conversation with someone? How much do I have? Right? So the whole idea around money is not necessarily how much you have, because that can change overnight. But it's you having and giving yourself the opportunity to learn and to understand some of the fundamental things about money, such that when that time comes, you're already prepared, right? Because again, for a lot of us, we pray for breakthroughs, but breakthrough is simply the intersection of preparation meeting opportunity. Right? So if you're not prepared, the opportunities will come and you'll miss it. And that's the whole reason behind what I call POOR, because POOR, P-O-O-R, for me, stands for people overlooking opportunities regularly. And the only reason why we're overlooking or opportunities are passing us every time is because we're not prepared. We're not prepared. And you can't be prepared if you don't seek out information. Transformation never begins until new information comes in, right? So we must begin to become open to new information. At least seek it, at least read a book. When I graduated, I thought I was good. I didn't want to read any other book.
Any other book.
Right? Yeah, I didn't want to read any other book. I mean, like, man, I've done the bachelor's, now I've done the master's, man, I'm done. I'm done with education, right? But when in 2013, when my dad passed, that's when I realized there was a whole space I didn't know about. Now I'm reading a lot more than maybe what I read in my undergrad or maybe in my master's. Why? Because I realized how much and how profoundly I was ignorant when it came to money matters. And yet that's what we put the most effort for. We're working 40, 60 hours a week for what? For money. So it would serve you if you could give yourself, make time, because don't say you don't have time. You make time. Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they all get 24 hours a day. There's just simply something they're doing that you and I aren't doing yet. But if we can make the time to start educating ourselves about what we don't know, especially when it comes to money matters, because here's this, I'll give you 6 things which I call my 6 Fs. Yeah. These are what everybody, if you're balancing this, you're wealthy. What are these 6 Fs? Family, or your faith, your family, finances, fitness or your health, fun, and friends. You're balancing these 6 things, wonderful. Life is beautiful, right? But I want you to check this out. Of these 6 things that I mentioned, finances is the foundation.
Foundation.
Right? The lack thereof, you have problems even in your faith. You go to church, the pastor says, give, you start looking left and right, right? You have problems in family, right? You could have problems with your health, because you don't have the finances to take care of your health or yourself, right? Let alone have fun, right? And then you start having problems with your friends because of what? So money is the root, it's like the bedrock in this lifetime. If we can start fixing the money problems, we would be able to fix all the other problems we have in our life. That's why I'm so passionate, I'm so focused on this. I've done 17 plus years in engineering. I still do it, but my focus is this, because I know if I solve this problem, all my other problems could easily be solved.
All right, you are here in Cameroon. Perhaps take us through. Do you have some projects that you plan to bring into Cameroon?
I do. For now, I've been doing some land acquisitions, but yeah, that's where I'm starting. But one of the areas that I'm passionate about is agriculture. I know today, people are heavy into real estate. Real estate is great, but for me, real estate is land, not the houses.
Yes.
Yeah. Agriculture is a great place to start. Anybody, I encourage them, start, because it's somewhere where sometimes it's not that capital intensive, right? You can start, you can venture into it. The truth is people are always going to eat. And sometimes because we don't know things that other countries or the West already know about what's coming, you and I are sitting here and we're ignorant, not knowing that. You have to start asking yourself, why is China, why is the entire rest of the world so interested in Africa? Africa's population is about 1.9 billion right now. Yeah. And the mean age, or the median age in Africa is 19.2. So Africa has the youngest population. And studies done by the World Bank and maybe even the IMF, they know these things. But you and I, most of us, we don't. By 2050, it is estimated that the African population will double.
Yes.
I want you to start thinking about that. What would that look like when that population doubles with the youngest population and with the greatest resources in all of the entire globe? Okay, that's one. And number two, there's another study that they are projecting that by 2050, there could be a great famine. And so because of that, countries are heavily invested in agrarian areas to make sure that they can have enough food stored up by the time something like that were to happen. And we in Africa don't have a clue. And now they're coming here and buying lands and doing agricultural projects, and we in Africa, we are not. That is what is at stake, just a little bit. I just wanted to give that there. So for me, that's one area that I'm also passionate about. There's no reason why we have a lot of natural resources and we're exporting and importing food. We shouldn't. Makes no sense to me.
All right. This last question that just came to my mind. Let's talk about retirement, because it's a very, very big issue in Cameroon. How do people manage their retirement?
First of all, the idea of retirement and your belief and that myth needs to change. That's where I need to tackle it first.
For many, it seems like it's a death sentence.
Yeah. So let me give you my definition for retirement. For me, retirement is simply this: doing what I want to do, not what I have to do. Okay? Yeah. Sounds simple. But for most of us today, we really can't do what we want to do. So today, we are doing what we have to do.
We have to do.
We have to go to work so we can put food on the table. But I want you to think, what would you need to do so you can get there? So you can begin to do what you want to do. It will take effort. It may take some time. That's why they put an arbitrary age. But retirement is not age. So get that out of your head. It doesn't mean that when you're 70, you retire. You can be 70 and you're broke, and you therefore means you can't retire, right? In the United States, we see that. People say they retire from a job and then they go back and start working somewhere else. Why? Because they are broke. Whatever they had saved up was never enough to allow them to go into the sunset, right? So retirement is not stopping from your job. And part of the reason, again, is that mindset, because we go to school, we get out of school, and we go for employment, and we never seek to deploy ourselves. So your job is not your work, and we have to differentiate those two things. Your work is your gift. If you keep doing it, it can take you for the rest of your life. But your job is something that can sustain you for a period of time. So when you start thinking about retirement, for me, retirement truly, therefore, is financial independence. Because when I have enough money that can take care of my bills and more than enough for me so I can help other people, I can retire at any age. Why? Because I am financially secure.
Secured. All right. Thank you very much, Kingsley EKINDE, financial expert. It was a pleasure having you on the program In Depth on Dash TV.
Thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to having more of this. And again, thank you.
Of course, we shall have you any other time. And special thanks to Uncle Beatrice who made this possible. And to you, televiewers, until next time, it's goodbye. Keep watching programs on Dash TV.
Wonderful.